and then I could handle. They were a little intimidating, but I kind of fell into more of a rhythm and went into something else. And I've never looked back at the rings again.
So no more rings.
No more rings. It's not going to happen. No. I could see myself maybe getting into more intricate work eventually, but just how dainty and small scale that was, it didn't feel like a good fit. So.
But Dad was there, so I'm guessing he was delighted to see that you were getting back into the woodworking.
Yeah. It's actually been a really fun journey of connecting with him more. And again, the distance of living in two separate states and everything is always an interesting dynamic of trying to stay in touch with loved ones. But like just yesterday, he sent me a video of how to use a tool that he just got that I was interested in maybe buying to help clean up the edges of my art. And so he sent me this little video, and it's the coolest thing. I'm definitely saving that. And I even told him, I'm like, we should start a YouTube channel. That would be really fun, of just sharing little tips and tricks and things like that. So maybe that'll be on the horizon someday.
That's a niche market. You don't really hear much about woodworking. There's a lot.
Yeah, I know. I have one guy I really like on YouTube that does a lot of basics and beginners woodworking tips and tricks. Woodworking for mere mortals. If you're interested in getting into woodworking, he's a good show to start with. And so maybe we'll do something like that with a little bit more of a father-daughter dynamic.
So what is your process when you want to make a piece for woodworking?
Yeah, so I still kind of go off the same model that I did on the original board. I buy 1x2, 1x3, and 1x4 pine boards from Home Depot. And then I lay out my backer board, so it's just like a sandy board, or I can't think of the actual term, but it's like just a piece of plywood basically that I cut out to the size, the dimension that I want. I originally start from the center and I measure in perfectly half in the center point. And I'll just start with like a piece, lay it out and do the mirror image. So 4 identical cuts. And I normally sand that, stain it, and glue it on. And I never go more than maybe 2 or 3 rows out at a time as I'm building it, because I like to see the progress and not know where it's going to end. Obviously, if I'm replicating something I've already made before, I know the cuts and I know what needs to be done, and I just kind of like assemble it pretty efficiently. But when I'm doing something new, which is my favorite way to do any of my pieces, I'll just kind of try and follow some type of intuition and see how I like a few rows at a time, and then I glue them, and then I start building out from there. So I try not to have a clear image of where I'm going to end and kind of see where the boards take me and different patterns take me.
So is it just strictly boards you're doing at this point?
I think there's a weird thing about woodworking where I don't know if the big boards are really as desirable as more functional pieces. And so I've started doing more trays. The trays are doing really well. So I can do a similar pattern on about a 12 by 20 board, and it's like a nice little ottoman tray. I'm working on a concept with a collaboration right now of doing more like table runner size trays for like your Thanksgiving table. So those ones are going to be just really long and narrow. So you could put like pumpkins and lanterns and things like that on top of it, and it'll be really cute. But the trays are really taking off more than the larger art pieces are. And I think that's just because it's easier for people to justify that type of a piece because it is so practical then.
Do anything like models of some sort, like houses, and are you getting into that area at all? I mean, like small scale, of course, you know. Yeah, no, not really. I'm playing around with the idea of a few other pieces that are more like a book holder type of a thing, and like little design boxes and things like that. But the model house idea is really cool. I have a few ideas saved where you just do like the block houses
that you could put on your mantle that are really cute. But what I'd love to get more into is more custom install, permanent to your wall type of art. So there is somebody that I'm kind of talking to right now where they did a renovation and they have this railing that is just awkward. And so we talked about framing it out, boxing it out, and creating this little like half wall that actually will have my pattern of art on it. And then you could do like decoration along the top, and it would just be this cute little like pop out. So I'm really hoping that comes through. I've put it on the back burner until after we move. Just too much going on right now. But as soon as I'm moved in and settled into my new shop, I'll be talking to them more about that. And I hope we can find something that works, because I'm really excited about that idea.
Sounds great. Definitely. Wow. That's thinking outside the box. Really?
Really.
Do you set a certain time of day to do your woodworking?
Right now I'm really limited to nights and weekends. I work full time. So I try and get at least a few hours in every weekend, which is doable, because my husband's awesome. Like right now he's got our twins and the dog at the park, and he'll do fun stuff like that and kind of give me the space I need to create, because the girls really can't be out in my shop with me while I'm working. It's just a little too dangerous and a little bit too distracting, and I find I don't actually get anything done. So we kind of have a thing worked out where he'll take them for a couple hours on the weekend, so I can get about like three or 4 hours in normally. But not a certain time of day. I would love to be able to have a regimen and a schedule, but life is so crazy right now that I fit it in wherever I can. Even if it's one night I'm taking 30 minutes to stain a piece, and then the next night I take 30 minutes to, nail it together, and then the next day I'm putting the sealant on. I kind of have to just make it work whenever I can.
What do you think is the most challenging thing you usually face when doing a woodworking piece?
My least favorite is probably the most challenging, and that's just in general the nailing of it together, and making sure that the most frustrating thing in the world is when you have a piece almost done and you're just nailing together the sides, and the nail pops right out the side, and you have to rip it out, possibly remove that piece and change it out. And that's just me being inexperienced. As I get better, I'll have fewer of those, hopefully. But for now, it still is fairly, I won't say it's too common, but it does still happen, and it's really frustrating. So I think the most challenging is when you've created the piece and you love it, and you're trying to just finish it out without ruining in it. So I often hit those points where I wish I could say I'm just done, but I know it'll be that much better if I add the trim, add the finish, and complete it to its fullest purpose.
Now, where you're moving to, do you have a shop that you're going to woodwork?
I'll still be working out of my garage. Okay. I'm a weekend garage warrior, so unfortunately I have to keep my cars outside because the garage is pretty much all shop. But that's a sacrifice we're willing to make right now, and hopefully we'll have a way in the future to get me a more private off location, or hopefully maybe someday on location in the backyard pole barn that I can work out of and have a independent space. But for now, I take up about one stall of the garage. So if you're willing to sacrifice at least one stall of your garage, you can have an at-home shop too.
Do the twins show any little interest in woodworking or anything creative?
They do. Oh my gosh. Actually, we're moving. So we were cleaning out the garage and moving some stuff around, and they had come across just my scrap pieces, my scrap blocks that were very, odd end shapes. And together they created their own little wall of maybe 2 to 3 blocks tall. It was probably about 6 or 7 feet long. And they were just playing with it, creating and stacking. And I got the idea that definitely once we move, I'm going to stand those up and stain them and create a little block set for them, because they had so much fun building and stacking with that. And they do that a lot with their toys. They love to stack and kind of, especially one of my girls, she's a very good tinkerer. She likes to get in there and try and take things apart, which is frustrating, but someday she'll be able to back together. So just, she loves to tinker with things, and they're both pretty creative like that. I can see that being maybe a part of their futures too, especially if we foster it now. So.
Now you have pieces that, are you trying to sell them? Are you trying to sell some?
Yeah, I do. I definitely sell my trays. Those seem to be doing really well. I'm more than happy to work on custom orders. If anybody is interested, they can always contact me about that too.
Do you have an online shop?
I do. I have a website, BeccaJaneDesign.com. It's not perfect. It's something that I'm not very good at, is building websites, apparently. So, but it's up there. And normally, honestly, right now, I'm getting a lot more of my sales through the craft shows I'm in, and then messaging through Instagram. People just contacting me and asking me on different things. So you can always reach me through those platforms as well.
Do you think we all have an artist inside of us?
Yes, I do. I think, Brene Brown talks about how so many of us have art scars and creativity scars, where somebody who probably meant well said something that resonated with us, saying that we weren't good enough or not creative enough, or we probably shouldn't be the one singing and let everyone else sing. I hear so many stories like that, even from people when I'm like, oh, look what I'm doing. They're like, you're so creative. And I'm like, no, we really all are. It's a matter of finding what jives with you, what speaks to you, and getting rid of those fears and those what's misbelief? I don't know what
misconceptions,
the term is,
possibly.
Misconceptions, misconceptions that we aren't good at it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you produced is good. What matters is that you went through the process and you felt that connection with creation and creativity, and if it sparked joy in you, to pull on another superstar right now, like if it sparked some kind of joy in you, then that's all that matters.
That is so true. People are so quick to say, oh, I can't draw, I can't do that. Well, don't beat yourself up about it. Maybe you have something else inside you,
It's true. And don't think that after 5 minutes you're going to be able to draw something. So many of us get caught up at different points in the process where it starts to become challenging, and we write it off as we're not good at it, when really all it is that additional practice, that additional determination to see a project through to the end and see what it could become without writing it off so quickly. Like at any given point, I could have given up on my art, my projects, and decided that I wasn't good at it because it got hard and I didn't know how to do this, and I really wanted this piece to be spliced down to 3/4 of an inch, but I didn't know how to do that. But you figure out a way, and when you work through those challenges, that's when you start to feel like you can take ownership as an artist, because you didn't give up when it got hard. You kept going, and then it starts to build like a part of your identity around that.
Amen to that. Very true.
Yeah.
Now, you said you work full time. Is it in woodworking, or is it some other field?
No, I work for a residential construction company here. So I'm the pre-construction coordinator. I work half in the office doing permits and things like that, and then I'm starting to branch out more into the field, assisting the foundation manager. So I've always had a love for homes and design, and this has been a really fun journey the past 3 years working in construction.
She's still by the wood somehow.
Yeah.
It calls you.
Yeah, honestly, there is something to be said about that. My favorite phase of construction is the frame part of it. I love going into houses while they're in frame and seeing the timber and the beams, and even when you can see through and out still before they have the exterior cladding on. I love that.
Yeah, there's something special about that. It's just, you see the outline of what it's going to be, and all that wood.
See the bones, yeah.
Any advice for future woodworkers?
I think that you probably know if woodworking or doing something with wood is in your heart. I find myself attracted to almost anything that's wood. My house is almost entirely designed with natural looking wood elements. So if that's already in you, don't let yourself be afraid of